welcome to another video. And this video is one that I've pondered on whether to make or not, because the election's gone and the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom didn't do terribly well, and that's not the problem. Through meeting Rachel Thacker down on the island, I found my political home, if you like. I've always hated bullies. I've always believed in gay rights, the right to love who you want to. I've always hated racism. Anyone that hates another person because of skin colour, in my mind, is Neanderthal, and that's whatever colour you are. I've always believed in diversity of religion, although myself, I'm an atheist. I've always believe what you want as long as you don't affect anyone else. I'm also what you'd class probably as a patriot. I have been to various political parties. I started off with the Liberal Democrats, and I went to the Liberal Party, and then I went to the National Liberals. I skirted with nationalism a bit, rose up to secretary of their party, and then decided that it wasn't for me when I knew some of the people involved were once National Front linked. I do believe that they've changed, but I don't know. If it doesn't feel right for you, you have to do what you've got to do. So I then went to the Social Democratic Party, but because of the National Liberals, them being put on their list of banned organisations, I had my membership rescinded and my candidacy, Prospective Parliamentary Candidacy, rescinded. And then I was politically homeless, really, and I met two people, Mark and I met Rachel. And Rachel was such a lovely person and wanted to do such good things within the local community of the Isle of Wight that I sat and listened to her. And when she told me about the party having no whip, so that even if the party thinks something, if she disagrees and she thought that was best for her constituents, she would vote the way she wanted and against the party if necessary. And I thought that was such a good idea and such a refreshing slant on party politics. I joined the party. Now I did my research, because that's what I do a lot of the time. Don't always come up with answers that people will like, but I do my research. So I looked into the party, and the only negative I could find about the leader, Dr.Teck, was a hit piece written by a former Socialist Worker Party member who'd taken some tweets where Teck had said, when asked about the Muslim community after some trouble in Leicester, had said, well, when in Rome, you should do what the Romans do. He also responded to a report that said that police terror tactics had contributed to the radicalisation of Muslims, and he asked where the proof was. Now, when you do anything like that on social media, you do get far-right people answering you. That's not down to you. He then pointed out that there was a group in Germany that was growing, probably in response to the perceived Islamification of Germany. And this person from the Socialist Workers' Party wrote this as a hit piece. It's still on the net for you to look at. You would have to be a total moron not to do any more research than that. But if you've got an agenda, or if you are a moron, or if you've got an agenda of some kind, it's an easy go-to. Now, what that doesn't say to you is that Dr. Teck, who worked in Leicestershire in a GP's practice for 30 years with a predominantly Muslim clientele, was thought the world of. It also doesn't go into the fact that his cousin married a Muslim and then converted to Islam himself. It also doesn't go into the fact that Dr. employed 3 Muslim doctors who took over the practice when he retired. He's highly thought of in the community, but no, If you've got an agenda, we'll use this hit piece. No one will actually read it. No one will see that he doesn't say anything that's racist. And we'll score a few points on it. And when this is used, you do get people, the hard of thinking, not question it and say, oh, that must be right. It's the internet. They're everywhere. That didn't put me off joining the party. And now that I've met Teck Kong and heard his views, I'm very happy that I made that decision. So the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom, basically it's freedom for the individual, full bodily autonomy. Dr. Kong signed the Great Barrington with a load of other top scientists, virologists, immunologists, because he didn't believe that the vaccines had been tested sufficiently, and he also wasn't sure just how dangerous the COVID geno was. As a GP of over 30 years, and prior to that having studied research practices, he wasn't happy with the way the vaccines were being put out to everyone in the community. And like any good scientist should, he asked questions. He's also now a big advocate of getting the truth about the extent of vaccine harms. Now, not everyone's going to like that. There are a lot of cultural Marxists out there seeping into the system that don't respect other people's views. I was brought up in a world where you could discuss, where you didn't abuse, and where you could beg to differ. In a democracy where you could vote for what you wanted. There's a lot of things I don't agree with. I agree with LGBTQ rights, but I don't agree with trans women who haven't been operated on using women's safe spaces. Just my opinion. I don't agree with our children being given lessons on oral sex at the age of 9. Just my opinion. I want our children to have a childhood, to grow up, respecting everyone, regardless of sexuality, colour, religion. Respect everyone until they do you harm. I don't agree that letting undocumented people come into the country is a good thing. But I also think that we should look at the root cause, which is UK and US foreign policy. And if there's a genuine refugee, find space for them. So that's just my opinion. And people won't agree with it. And that's their right. But that's my opinion. Now, the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom, like all political parties, I would assume, have experts in their different fields. We've got a scientist on board for climate change. He doesn't support the drive for net zero, whilst acknowledging that there is climate change, both natural and a small element is man-made. He doesn't see how putting all our manufacturing over to China and let them bellow out, it's not really CO2 that's the problem, it's the NOx. He doesn't see how that solves anything. He's more for researching technologies for bringing back nuclear power and taking a slow transition towards net zero. Some of these councils have been infiltrated with ULEZ schemes, Oxford trying their 15-minute city. All that is curtailing people's freedoms. It's doing nothing. It's like 20 mile an hour emission zones. 20 mile an hour zone, your car is putting out more pollution than at 30 miles an hour. That's a fact. All scientists agree. Not all scientists agree on climate change, particularly those who aren't funded by governments or corporate eco-businesses. So I've come to my conclusion, but I also respect those that disagree with me. So we've got experts. There's an expert, there's a former city trader who's an economist. There's obviously Dr. Teck has got his views on the NHS. We don't need to plough loads and loads of money in. We just need to de-incentivise doctors. So basically, Big Pharma has come in and they pay doctors to issue a certain amount of drugs. And sometimes the NHS Trust gets a kickback as well. This was seen particularly in COVID. Rearranging the organisation is what Teck would like to do. So we've got experts. So we don't expect everyone out there as a candidate to be an expert in every field, because they can go back and they can answer people's questions. What we expect people to do is be totally committed to their local community and to be honest. And I saw some kickback with Rachel saying about 16-year-olds being given the vote, presumably. Well, the party stance is that you should be 18 to get a vote. So if Rachel disagrees with that, she's perfectly at will to vote for the way she thinks and the way her constituents think if she got into any governmental position. There's no whip with the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom. So that's where we were, and we were approaching the general election, and it became pretty clear pretty early on that there were some people out there who, for whatever reason, had an agenda. I suppose that's just politics. I suppose whenever there's a competitive situation, people will take sides. They'll try to make the other side look as dark can be. So I suppose it was to be expected. But we go back to Rachel, a nice young mother with an autistic daughter and other problems within the family, who was just sick and tired of Labour and the Tories lying to us. Lies, lies, lies. I think a lot of us are. Even those that voted for Labour, I spoke to a few. What do you vote Labour for? To get rid of the Tories. And doesn't that show how bad things have become? So, Rachel, despite all the problems at home, said, I'm going to stand because I'd like a better world for my children and my children's children, and I'd like a better Isle of Wight. Presumably one that's not being costed out of most people's holiday plans because of ferry fares, exorbitant parking fares. I reside on the island most of the time, and I'm absolutely shocked that the council put those through. A young family going to the beach for a week, stick 70 quid on your holiday costs per week. Parking. The way iconic buildings are being left to rot. The place is a shambles, and yet they spend all that money making, in my opinion, and we're all entitled to our opinion, and a lot of people agree with my opinion, a pig's ear of Ryde bus station. How much did that cost? How much of the taxpayers' hard-earned money went into that? So anyway, I don't know what Rachel thinks of those things, but I would have stood on the island if I'd had the chance, just to raise those issues. Don't matter if I got one vote, because people that I talk to agree to a large extent on my thoughts on those things. So off Rachel goes, and obviously she goes to hustings, and obviously she stands and she puts out an internet page, and she was getting dogs abuse on Nextdoor because someone called Karl Love had said that the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom were some Christian far-right group with links to Christian fanatics in the US of A. And I just thought, is he a misogynist? Because Rachel's a young girl. Easy to bully, I presume. Is he incapable of any low standard of research on the internet? Or is he just spreading malicious lies for some agenda? When I was told that this guy was chair of the Isle of Wight Council, I literally nearly fell off my seat. And what we got after that, I fronted him out on the pages where he was putting this garbage, but never had the courtesy of an answer. And then we got little snipes. The same thing was reiterated under the county press hustings. Presumably, not only is he a world expert on political groups, but he's also a world expert on economics. I suppose if you're chair of the Isle of Wight Council, maybe the criteria is that you're an absolute expert in everything. Because he knew better than our ex-city economist that if the ADF got into power, the country would be bankrupt. Unlike the country under the Conservatives or Labour, where we send $3 billion a year to Ukraine for a, in my opinion, proxy war, which is just moving money after Putin had warned for years and years and years against NATO encroachment, and also that NATO encroachment was against a signed document under Gorbachev. So whilst I think Putin is probably a psychopath and a homicidal maniac, if you keep poking the bear, eventually the bear will bite back. So these people give him money hand over fist. During COVID, £65 billion unaccounted for. Drug experimentation contracts. We send overseas aid to China and India, who have both got space programs. I'm sorry, I don't understand why the Tories and Labour are doing such a great job economically, but this person who has researched totally the wrong party and has used a little snippet from an article by the Socialist Workers' Party to disgrace the party's leader. Someone with that amount of research, I don't understand why they know that under, I think he says reform, and the ADF, the country would be broke. No wonder he's chair of the Isle of Wight Council, because this man, despite seemingly being unable to do any low standard research on the internet, is an expert on everything. No wonder Rachel could never meet his expectations. So anyone can post anything on the net, and there were people who believed that. They probably weren't capable, like Karl Love, of using Google effectively. And when you make statements like that, particularly Rachel, a young lady with a homosexual uncle who she loves and adores, when you get people like Karl Love writing what I can only describe as ill-researched rubbish, whether it's through lack of ability or, as I say, some malicious intent, that affected Rachel really, really deeply. She had a conversation with her uncle, who then did his own research and saw that the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom had absolutely no links whatsoever with this radical Christian group. And you can imagine what his thoughts were about the author of this response to his niece's video. But it did affect Rachel, so obviously Karl Love, for whatever reason, I'm not saying he's a misogynist, because he may not be. There may be another reason, as I say. Maybe he's just not very good with Google searches, or maybe there's some other reason, some other alliance to another party. He goes on again to say that the ADF have clear links to evangelism. The Alliance for Democracy and Freedom, UK, have got no links to evangelism whatsoever. So even though by now I've confronted him on the internet without reply, he's not dumbing down. He's still saying about gay rights. I don't care who loves who. I am grateful that those days where loving someone of the same sex caused great mental harm, often great physical harm, I'm grateful those days are over. And I personally, and so are the ADF, are all for LGBTQ rights. They're for full bodily autonomy. If he's gone to the website and seen anything different, he's gone to the wrong website, which, let's face it, we wouldn't put that past Karl, would we? Now, looking when he was appointed as chair to the Isle of Wight Council's publicity piece, he's done good work for AIDS charities, and there's not very much about what he's actually achieved on there other than being a gay man in a gay relationship. Now, presumably because we've got a month's pride now, then that's an achievement. I don't know. I don't like saying I've got friends who are gay, because I've just got friends who happen to love someone of the same sex, who happen to find someone of the same sex attractive. It's like I don't like saying I've got black friends. It's because I just happen to have friends with a different skin colour to me. It's a womb lottery. As I've said many times before over the years, it's a womb lottery. I could have been born black. I could have been born gay. As it is, I'm a white heterosexual, which in 2024 makes me far right. And according to Karl Love, I'm a member of a, what was it? Infant far right party. Absolute tosh. So, Karl Love, chair of the Isle of Wight Council, if your aim was to bully Rachel mentally, if your aim was to just slander a party because either, as I say, you're not capable of doing genuine research or you had some other malicious intent, well done. I think you've achieved them all. And those people that agreed with you, probably your voters, and they probably deserve to be. But I just hope that the next time there's council elections, people look at what you've said on the internet. They look at the way you've seemingly, it appears to me, trolled Rachel. And they see your levels of research and think to themselves, do we really want someone like that not only standing for us, but being chair of the council? Okay, all you voters out there, keep these things in mind, because there is a far right, but there's also a far left, a creeping far left. All I'll say to you is you'll come to different conclusions, but do your own research and do it a bit better than the chair of the Isle of Wight Council does. Thanks for watching, folks. As I say, I've never liked bullying. And for me, in my own humble opinion, which I think in 2024 I'm still entitled to, I've seen a fair bit of bullying over that election. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and throw the video a like. Thank you very much. Bye for now.